Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm delighted to welcome Charlotte from Looking After Your Pennies. And Charlotte, thanks so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. It is a pleasure to be here, and I always like talking to new people about money. So this is a great way to spend my time.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I love and enjoy talking about money as well, and we're going to hopefully offer the viewers some good value. So, Charlotte, just to kick things off, just give us that 30,000 view of who you are and what you do.
So yeah, I'm a financial educator. So I was a maths teacher for like 10 years or something like that, a long time, and I then had a couple of kids and realised I wanted my life to go in a slightly different direction, than maybe teaching maths to 18-year-olds wasn't the way I wanted to spend the rest of my life. But actually that I had a passion for money and finance, and realised that there was a real gap in the education that both people my age have received, and that also younger generations are still receiving. So I stepped out into the world of like social media, started a blog first of all, literally would sit there in the evenings like tapping away. So yeah, now what I do is I just teach people how money works so that they can make strong decisions around their own finances.
Awesome stuff. Well, again, it is all going to be about money today. Hopefully a lot of people can learn something, because I think one thing we forget is, and I had this conversation with Laura and Moore, is actually things that we know, which we think are basics. There are a lot of people that just, even just savings and ISAs, things that we would think are the basic kind of investing and saving levels. A lot of other people just don't know of that. So I would say money is becoming more popular to talk about. It's becoming more of a trendy thing, but, it can be quite boring. What actually got you into money? Let's just kick off with that. What made you think, actually, I quite like that?
Yeah, well, I had a moment of realisation that I think I've always been into money. I think I've always been fascinated by it. And obviously there's a mathematician streak in me, because I am, my degree is in mathematics. So I've always been fascinated by numbers anyway. But yeah, I realised that I did a GCSE in economics. So I was like 14 when I made that decision. So there was something, there's like an innate like love of money. So I think when I really started focusing on it again and realised that maybe it was something that I'd like to do for my career, was when I had kids. And I think this is, it was like it's a real turning point for a lot of people, in that up until that point I'd kind of cruised. There was like me and my husband, and like 2-income household, decent jobs. We were coping just fine. Then we had kids, and I wasn't working full time, and neither of us were working full time, and money got a bit tight. And I wanted to be able to I wanted one of us to be at home with the kids like all the time. And that took some really creative, financial savvy. So I got really interested then in, the different things I could do, ways I could make money online, places that I could cut back, and just making sure that I was really getting the most out of the money that we had coming in. And I thought, well, if this is interesting to me, if this is something that I need, then maybe I should be putting that out in the world. Maybe somebody else could benefit from following me on this journey. So yes, that was the point. And I remember saying to my husband, one day I'm going to start like a personal finance blog. And he went, well, just do it now. And so I did. And I'm kind of grateful to him for having that moment of just going like, stop thinking you're going to do it one day, just get on with it, love.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? I think everyone I talk to about money, it always starts with like a reason why. Like you say, you kind of go through a stage of cruising, and in hindsight you think, oh god, I wish I knew what I know now years ago, because where you could be. And for me that was my turning point, was having my son as well, and that kind of really pushed me to make better decisions, because you become less selfish, don't you? It becomes about a bigger reason why, and you want to set them up, and you make smarter decisions.
Massive childcare fees.
Yeah.
That was it for me. I was like, there's got to be a better way.
No, absolutely. Well, it's a big point. You've got to have a reason why. You've got to look after your pennies. And Let's start with the basics then. So for someone watching this who is looking to sort out their finances, for you, what are the first few steps that someone needs to understand and do to get control of their finances?
Yeah, so I think you make a great point there about having a reason why. And I always encourage, and it seems a little bit like a little bit woo and a little bit out there, but having something that's bigger than your current circumstances that you're working towards. So having this big goal, like we have never been more focused on saving money than when we wanted to go travel around the world. Like we were able to make it was really easy for us to make choices. It was like, like, do we want this takeaway this evening? Or do we want to be eating real Chinese food in China? Like, do we want to eat real Thai food in Thailand? It was like those moments. And so the choice then was easy. It was like, no, we'll put some chicken nuggets in the oven, like we'll put the money in the bank account kind of thing. And having that goal is really, really motivational. We went through the same thing when we were buying our house, just making sure that, and it was like, do we want to, do this thing? Do we want this weekend break, or do we want to get one step closer to buying our house? And that was really motivational for us. And we found that like a lot of our finances sort of just automatically fell in line because we had something to work towards. Then the next step of that is something that I call financial intimacy, which is really getting to know the numbers. You've got to know where your money's coming from and where it's going to. And it's only really then that you can look for patterns. And it could be, every Friday you come home from work tired, so that's when you open the Deliveroo app or something like that. Or it could be, there's certain times of the month that, you get a little bit more spendy, or you're feeling a bit down, or, there's certain triggers. Or it could just be that there's certain websites, every time Amazon sends you an email, you're reminded of that thing that you need, or that, to go back and check your basket. So it's about really getting to know what's going on with those numbers, and also getting to know yourself and some of your behaviors around your finances. And if you can do that, and it's like, I've likened this work to when I found out I had to live gluten-free for the rest of my life. Like the overwhelm when you first start doing this sort of thing is like, well, I don't know what's got gluten in, and you do the same with your finances. You're like, I don't know, like, where my money is, where it's going. And you have to put in that work to start off with. But now I know what's got gluten in, and I know like what I can and I can't eat. And it's just second nature to me now. I can literally walk through the supermarket, pick up exactly the things I know I can eat, and I don't worry about it. And it's the same with your finances. Once you have an idea of where your money's going, where you want it to go, actually, you can then just get on with your life, and these things sort of just happen automatically. So there is a body of work that needs to be done, that getting really intimate with your financial situation. And then after that, it just becomes, it's about habits and systems, and you can build those things into your daily, monthly, yearly rituals, whatever it is you're doing. And it just gets easier after that.
Yeah, you get that compound effect eventually, don't you? And something I always touch on, and it always surprises me, is the lack of people that actually have standing orders set up. So, they rely on sort of like a manual transaction. And I always try to put it down as, you have your income, and then if you have everything on a standing order set up, you don't have to think about it. So you're not enticed to go out and, if you think you're going to go buy something you shouldn't, well, if the money's not in that account and it's already moved to where it should be, your hand is forced, isn't it? And you can't go and buy that luxury or that materialistic thing.
I tell people that I'm just so lazy with my money. Like it shows up, and it's more complicated now because I'm self-employed. So it's like, what money's coming, I don't know, like it's gonna be fun. So it can vary, but I have like standing orders. Like all of my bills happen without me doing anything. All of my savings happen, all of my investments happen. And what I do then, if there's extra money on top of like, what I was expecting, I just top it up. That's when I do a manual transaction. But I know that I am working towards my goals, and that everything is just ticking over nicely, without having to get out of bed or even look at my phone. Like it all just happens. So yeah, just be really lazy about it. And I like to think of it as like having a personal assistant, like just all of these systems exist out there so that you can go and get on with your life and do something else. So why not take advantage of that? Why not let a robot do the work for you?
Yeah, and we've got so many apps now, haven't we? That, like, there's so many advantages, and I think this is where it becomes fun. If you go into finance, you find it a little bit boring. I think when you get control of it, where your money's going, you've got a goal to aim towards, and you start systemizing everything, and this compound effect happens. I think that's when it becomes exciting, because your next mission then is, how can I make more money so I can start putting more money into savings, to investments, and then it becomes about the cash flow. And I think that's really important as well. Is let's touch on everyone wanting to jump into bed with investments. There are a lot of things out there that people are influential, especially younger people, where they see people making big money in NFTs and crypto, and it's very easy to forget about the basics of taking full advantage of, like, your stocks and shares ISA and the tax wrappers, and just leaving, like, the basics behind. So, what would you say to people that are watching this thinking, oh, but that's the long way around, I just want to go and buy an NFT and make £7,000 in a month? It doesn't happen like that, does it?
No, I mean, like, that is like saying, oh, I'm just going to go buy the winning lottery ticket. Like, it's that same. Yes, you might be that one person that picks the right numbers, picks the right NFT, buys the right coin, token, whatever. You might pick the right stock, but what if that isn't the one? Like, what if it isn't? Like, can we have a backup plan? And I think you can wait for that magic moment that turns your life around, or you can just slowly work on it and always have an element of guarantee that you'll get there eventually. And there's, and I'm not against, things like crypto or NFTs and stuff like that, but have it as part of a broader plan that is just, working towards this goal. And, you might luck out and you pick the right one or something like that. But in the short term, or in the long term even, have a plan to just be working towards that vision. And I think, probably the best place for most people to start, and it's possibly the thing that gets, like, whenever I mention it, people just switch off, you can see their eyes glaze over, is pensions. Like, it's so, like, most people will probably have a pension, thanks to auto enrollment. That means that most people will be investing, and they might not even have realized that they're investors, but that's their money and they're investing. And you have some control over what happens with that money. You have some choices over where it's invested, and how aggressively, the amount of risk that's involved in that. And it's your money. And I think that is the bit that people overlook. They only see it as like a tax that comes out of their earnings, just goes into this pot. They just don't even think about it. And I think if I was to, if I could, time travel back into my younger self with the knowledge that I have now, it would be, pay more attention to things like my pensions and use the stocks and shares to start investing when I was like 18 or even younger. So yeah.
I think the struggle is, I think people really struggle to vision 10, 20 years ahead. I think the people that do well are the people that can sit there. I mean, look, if you could sit there at 20 years old, say you turn 20, and you can sit there and go, right, what do I want when I'm 50? And I know that sounds nuts and that sounds daunting, but if you can mentally be that far ahead and plan for that 50-year-old you could be a really healthy, in good condition 50-year-old, and then your wealth could be great if you start planning now. And I can't remember where I saw this, but I think it was a quote on TikTok, and it was put into a nice little video, was your between 18 and 22, work solidly and just save and invest solidly in those sort of 4 years where you are at your fittest, healthiest, your most energetic, and then just learn, because when you then get into your mid-20s, you'll be in such a great position. And we look back now, don't we? And you think, oh God, I only if I knew what I knew now. And that is hindsight for you, and it doesn't work like that, does it?
It's things like, I remember doing the maths on this, and I tried to look for a figure that I could invest for my kids when they were born. Missed that boat because, they're 7 and 4 now. But like I was like, oh, what amount would you have to invest at birth for your kid to, given the trends of the past 30 years in the stock market, to essentially retire a millionaire? Like, you do nothing in between, you just put a lump sum in the day they're born, and then when they get to 65, they're a millionaire. And that's like inflation adjusted as well. And that figure was £10,000. And it was just like, oh my gosh, that's not an insane amount of money. So yeah, you lose some of that. Obviously, you don't have as much time as the older you get, but the younger you start with those things, the better. And I'm playing catch up even now, and I still like to think of myself as young, even though I'm not as young as I used to be. But I still have plenty of time, so I am going hard on the investments, with the view that one day I will be able to. It's not, I was going to say live comfortably, but it's not like I'm living uncomfortably now, but I know that I will have that security for the rest of my life if I carry on as I am now.
Yeah, and something else that's really important, and I always talk to people about this, is don't worry so much, especially when you're at the younger age. We are in an age where, I use MoneyBox. I love MoneyBox, and I've got a few other apps that I've used. I've used platforms, Hargreaves and Lansdown, Morgan and Stanley. Like I've been quite diverse in platforms that I've used, and I've got likes and dislikes. But what is, I suppose, is a positive and a negative, and more so for a negative for the young influential people who want to do well in finance but haven't got that knowledge yet, is that everything can be downloaded at a click of a button, and people can invest from £5 to £100, and that might be all the money that they have, and they're going into these things without the full knowledge behind them of having a good few years experience of learning, listening to people who have been successful. And what kind of apps do you enjoy using? Are there ones that, if people were listening to this, you could say, well, look, I use this, I really enjoy it for these reasons?
It's really interesting, because doing this job, you basically end up trying all of them. You try all of them because you want to write a blog post or a video. There are, like you say, there are like pros and cons of each of them. It really depends what you're looking for. If you're super nervous, about investing and you're not sure, then there are some great ones such as like Wealthify, where they kind of they give you fewer options. So it's like, are you feeling cautious? Are you feeling adventurous? Then you've got the likes of Freetrade and Trading 212, where they have all the options. So a huge range of options, so you can buy individual stocks and individual companies. Most of my investments, like I say, I've got investments all over the place because I just try different things out. Most of my investments go through Vanguard. And like I said, that is on an automatic thing. Like, I don't even log in. Every now and again, I'll log in and I'll be like, oh, it's like, I know I'm £100 off like this next big milestone, and I'll just add a little bit extra in. Like it changes the next day, but it just motivates me. I think if it really depends what you're looking for. And there's basically an app or a website or a system out there for everybody. The things to watch out for are things like what are the fees? Because the fees will corrode, like that takes away any money that you could potentially make. Also, minimum amounts that you can deposit, and I think that's probably important for anybody who's looking to start investing, because you might be like, well, I've only got a tenner, like I want to start, but I've only got a few quid to actually trial with this. So make sure you check the minimum amounts, because there are some out there that are like 500 quid or something like that. So you need to find one that works for you and has the usability and the affordability that suits your lifestyle.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a good point there. You said about an app that motivates you, in the sense of, that's why I like MoneyBox. Reason I like MoneyBox, done a few reviews on them, and I'm not even sponsored by them, but is that you have this option to look at your future discovery, both in your pension and your stocks and shares ISA. And when you look at it, and it gives you an option of, well, this is how much you're going to have in 10 years if you carry on saving this amount. If you up it by £5 and £10, it will show you what you would have if you just increased it by £5, £10. And it incentivizes you to think, well, actually, if I cut back on 2 coffees a week, I could then have that in 10 years' time. And it's I think if it's an interactive and informative and motivating app, I think that's a good one. But like you said, there are things to watch out for. Fees also, especially in the crypto sector, is, scams and stuff like that. So there are a lot of things that you do need to be wary of. And then again, it comes down to, I think, just starting with the basics, open up that stocks and shares ISA. Something I'd be interested just to quickly cover off with you actually is I did a video and I'd say I have a mixed response. But yeah,
really well, the mixed response video.
Yeah, and it's always mixed response from people that are commenting that probably don't have the knowledge behind it and they're just assuming, which is fine. But I have 20 bank accounts, and some people are like, "Oh my god!" And I know people with more bank accounts than me, and I'm even thinking, how can you have more than 20? But people do.
Are there more than 20 options?
Yeah, and it's funny when I say to people that every single account actually serves a purpose. Apart from 3 are dormant, which are 3 are backup accounts. So if I needed just to store money, 3 of them are just dormant. But I use every single one of them, and every single one set up on a standing order. Do you use multiple accounts? It's diversifying again, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have like a bills account. And then I have, one that my money gets paid into. I also have there's things like my business accounts. I've also then got a business account for sole trader stuff. So if there's any little side hustling things that I do. And then obviously so we have joint bank accounts, and then I've got personal bank accounts. I have an account for emergency funds. I have then things for sinking funds. And then I've obviously got my stocks and shares ISA, I've got my pension, my kids have got their ISAs and savings accounts. It wouldn't be that hard. I've got a spreadsheet of them all. And then I've also got, like I say, I've got a few bank accounts that I've just signed up to that are just for the sign-up bonuses and things like that. And I kind of have 2 or 3 that I sort of leave open, and I'll sign up to them for a bonus, and then I'll do the requirements to get the bonus, and then I'll leave them there and I'll wait for the next bonus. And almost the sole purpose of that account is to just sit there and wait for the next time I can sign up to get another sign-up bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the other thing, is like having the emergency fund, the maintenance fund, or / sinking fund. All these are important, and it's just going back to basics. And I think when you get the basics right, you actually quite end up enjoying finance, and that's when you look for, how can I make more money? How can I create a new side hustle that will help me get to my goal a lot quicker? It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Just before we close it off today, Charlotte, is there a book recommendation to do with finance, or is there a video you've seen or something that's impacted you within the financial world that you could recommend to the viewers?
Oh gosh, yes. There were so many books. I have a whole thing of this where I just put all these books. I think, can I do two? So the first one, really practical book, is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, which I'm sure people have mentioned before when you've asked them this, but really practical guide. There is a UK version as well, which I just found was probably pivotal for me in taking my first steps into investing. It laid it out nice and clearly, lots of useful information. And then the second book is it's more of a money mindset book, and this is Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas. And it just highlighted to me that a lot of the way I think, either consciously or subconsciously around money, is a barrier to doing bigger and better things with my finances. So it really opened up my eyes to the kind of psychological aspects of money management. So yeah, that's 2. I'm really sorry. You asked for one and I did 2.
Pleasure. Well, and I would throw this, a lot of people already know that I'd recommend this book, but one book that is fantastic for any beginners, and it's a good friend of mine, is Andrew Craig's How to Own the World. It's a fantastic book. It's just, again, it just opens your eyes, but in layman terms, because obviously things can be quite complicated. It's some of the jargon, you just think, I don't even know where to begin, but it's just about keeping it simple. Charlotte, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people reach out to you if they want to connect?
I'm basically looking after your pennies everywhere. That's my website, my YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok. It's just at Looking After Your Pennies.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Charlotte, and everyone who's watched so far, thanks, and we'll see you all very soon.